All right, let's talk a little bit about the micrometer. So here is a micrometer. Let's first mention some of the names of the parts. The main ones that we need to know are the thimble. That is what we are going to be turning to increase or decrease the spindle here. The spindle has a measuring face, and so does the anvil. The anvil is the stagnant piece of the measuring faces. It does not move. When the spindle is all the way connected to the anvil, that reading is 0. Okay? Right here we have the reading line. It says sleeve with vernier graduations, but I call it the reading line or index line. I call it that because that's where you read your measurement. We pretty much have a horizontal reading line and a vertical reading line. And we're always focusing on this point right here, where my cursor is. So wherever we are, right here, that's what our measurement is. All right, so if you are noticing that our thimble is not turning so easily, chances are you have the lock on. So undo the lock. When we're making a measurement, we're measuring something, we use this ratchet stop right here on the right side. Why we use that is because the ratchet stop has a consistent pressure that it's going to apply to the piece that we are measuring. If we just take all our force and turn the thimble, we're going to get some different numbers. But no matter how big or strong you are or how weak you are, if you use the ratchet stop, you're going to all get the same measurement. So, what does this thing measure? Let's take a look over here. So right here is a micrometer. Okay? So this here is a micrometer, and it's a virtual micrometer, but it's the same deal. Right now, we're going to be measuring to up to 1,000th in this class, so we're not going to focus on the 6 here. If we look right here, you can see how far we are measuring. Here's our decimal point. We're going to tenths, hundredths, and thousandths. This particular micrometer measures to 10 thousandths. As you can see right here, it measures 4 decimals deep. Okay, so how do we read this thing? How does this work? Well, as we look at this reading line, so focus on the reading line here. As we focus on that, each line is going to be 25 thousandths. So each line is going to be 25 thousandths. Let's write that down. So we have each line is 25 thousandths. So that means that each line is going to look like this. Well, how do I get a better brush here? There we go. Well, that's not working. Let's use my hand. There. So each line is 25 thousandths. What that means is that it's going to be measuring 0.025. Okay? So when we're at 0.025, we're at this measurement right about, I can't quite get there, but I'm just past 0.025. Okay, so I've passed one line. If I pass a whole number, so underneath the reading line, we have these whole numbers. They go up to 9. Okay, if we can pull that a little bit further, they go up to 10 essentially, but 9 is where they will go for you. So each number that we pass on the reading line is going to be, whoops, each number that we pass on the reading line down here is going to be in our 10th spot. Okay, so our 10th spot is right here. So we have tenths right there. The next number is identified by how many lines you see after it. So if we look at this measurement right here, okay? Sorry, I'm trying to figure out how to use this paint thing, but it'll work. Okay, so if we look at this measurement right here, right now I'll tell you, you can see on the board it's 0.2757. Okay, but how did we get that? Well, first of all, can we see the 3? No, can't see the 3, but we can see the 2. Okay, so I can see the 2. There's the 2. And how many lines after the 2 can we see? I can see about, if we're reading right here after the 2, I have 1 line, 2 line, and very close, but 3 lines. I can see that third line. Okay? So I can see that third line. So that means that there's 75 right there. Okay? So my next 2 numbers is identified by what that is. So 0.275. All right? And we can go further and read this line up here, but we don't have to. And that would be 7. So that works out. So the next thing, I want to get one that's not so close. There we go. Let's try that one. So we can see that this one is 0.5144. Okay? But how did we get there? So how we got there was we first saw what number did we pass on our reading line. So we have 0.5. And how many lines past that can we see? Well, I can't see any. Okay? However, that does not mean that this next number is 0. Okay? So we haven't passed anything yet. So let's do this. So so far we know we are at least 500 thousandths because we've passed our 5. The next line would be 25 thousandths and so on. So let's do our next step, which is how many lines have we passed? Well, none. So we're still at 0, 0, 0. The last reading we need to do on our micrometer is we need to take a look at the thimble. So the thimble has numbers as well, and it goes up to 25. Okay, well, 24. So as we're reading this reading line right here, remember I said there's a horizontal reading line and there's a vertical reading line. Well, let's look at that point that they intersect at. So we know that there's 500 thousandths because we've passed the 5. We haven't passed any of these lines, so there's 0, 0, 0. We haven't added anything yet. But now we haven't met 15 yet, but we're at 14. So 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Okay, so you always read the line that's underneath the reading line. Never go above because you haven't got there yet. So here's the reading line. You go to the line right below it, and that's 14. So we have 0.014. And now we can add that all up. So now we have 0.514. Okay? So there it is. There's our answer that we need. Let's do a couple more real quick just to kind of give you some clarification. All right. So think in your head what this one would be. This is kind of a tricky one, but I think you can get it if you've been paying attention. So think first, what number do we see on the underneath the index line, so this number here, we can see up to the 2. So I know I'm going to go 0.200. Next thing is how many lines after the 2 can we see? I can see 1, 2, 3 lines. I know it's hard to see that one, but there's 3 lines. Each one of these lines is 25. So 25, 50, 75. So let's add that one. So we're at 75 thousandths. 75. And now we look at this intersection here of the vertical piece of the thimble and our reading line, and we haven't gotten to 1 yet. So we go to the one right below it, and that's 0. So we add 0.00. That ends up with 275 thousandths. You see how we got that one? Good. 275 thousandths. Forget that. 10 thousandths right there. All right, here's another one. All right. So what number can we see? I can see up to the 3. Okay. So let's first of all get rid of this guy. So I can see the 3. I'll put my 0 down. I'll go with 3. 300 thousandths. I know we're at least at 300 thousandths. Now, how many numbers or how many lines can you see after the 3? So we're at the 3 here. I can see 1, 2, 3 lines. Each line is 25 thousandths. So 25, 50, 75. All right, so we have 75 there. Next piece. Now, where does that intersect with us? We have this intersecting line, so the thimble and the index line, or reading line. We are right on 1 or 10, 11, 12. We're right on 12. So we're at 12 thousandths on the thimble. And there it is. So we have 7, 8, 3. 387 thousandths. And there it is. Okay. So when we take a look at classroom, we go to our micrometer lesson. What I'm looking for is you to complete pages 4 and 5. Okay? 4 and 5. So all this part is asking you is exactly what I was doing here. Okay? So first, what number are we seeing? 400, then 90 thousandths, and 3. Then you add those all up, you got 493 thousandths. This one, you add all these up, 380 plus 23. That tricks you a little bit, right? So it's 403 thousandths. So this one, it says add the following numbers, but then it subtracts. I know that's a little tricky, but let's do that. Let's say screw it to the adding part, and let's just subtract 65 from 924. Now you're going to look up, so on that part, you're going to look at this piece right here. Okay? You're going to remember that like crazy, because you might be tested on it. And then you're going to just put the numbers down right there. And then when we're looking at the barrel, remember the barrel is this part right here where my cursor is hovering over. That's the barrel. The index line is on top of the barrel. Okay? So each mark on the barrel of the micrometer represents how many of an inch? Well, each one of these lines is 25 thousandths of an inch. So each mark on the thimble is equal to how many? What decimal of an inch? Well, each mark on this thimble right here is 0, right? You see all these goes up to 24. But each mark is only 1,000th, 1,000th. Each numbered mark on the barrel is equal to how many? Numbered mark. See that? Numbered mark. Each numbered mark is equal to 100 thousandths. All right, so as I pull this in, you can see it change. I go past here, past the 2, see I'm at 214 thousandths. All right, give the decimal number that the number 7 on the barrel represents. So on the barrel, that's this number right here, 7. That would indicate 700 thousandths. So you would have a 7.7000. Okay? And then on the thimble, the number 5 on the thimble, so number 5 on the thimble, remember this measures only 1,000th. You got 0, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4, 5,000. And if we remember, 5 thousandths would just be 0.005. Okay? All right, so a tolerance is an allowed blank in size. So it's an allowed, you could say variation, you could say difference, really anything that is just, a tolerance is just an allowed like gap in size, right? It's just a difference. All right, so now when we look at number 11, what I'm taking a look at is the last visible numbered line. So that one on number 11, I can see 2. So I wrote down 2. What's the decimal equivalent of that? Well, it's 200,000. And the number of lines visible after that 2 was 1, 2, 3. So we have 3. What does that equal? That equals 75 thousandths. Why? Because each one of these lines is 25 thousandths. And what's our thimble reading? Well, if we find that point between the thimble and the index line, right smack dab there is our 10. So we put 10. Now how many thousandths is that? Well, each one of these lines is 1,000, so we're at 10 thousandths. So we add that all up and get 0.285. Okay? So over on number 12, we pass the 6. So we write 6 there, 0.600. How many lines do we see after the 6? Well, I only see 1. So the number of lines visible, 1. That equals 25 thousandths. Because only each one of these lines is 25 thousandths. The thimble reading, we're at 14 on the dot. You can see that, so we write 14, and that's 0.014. We add these decimal equivalents. We add all those up, and we get this number, our final reading. Okay, so this one, 625 plus 14, we get 639 thousandths. Okay, down here, number 13, we're at the 3. We've passed 3 lines, and we're at the 10. So we're at 0.385 thousandths. On number 14, I've passed the 7, and I've passed 3 lines. And I'm going to add 3 to that. So I'm at 778 thousandths.